Hey, this is Matt. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to get a fair deal when you're going to get your car fixed at a mechanic shop. Now, I've heard from a lot of my friends, especially ladies, that they get taken advantage of just because they're a female and they want to get a fair deal on getting their car fixed. Well, I'm not a fan of that, and I really dislike any shop that tries to take advantage of a person because they think that they don't know what they're talking about. They think they know nothing of cars. And I have to say, quite honestly, I've seen just as many guys that don't know anything about cars, just as much as a lady that doesn't know as much about cars. They go to a mechanic shop, and a lot of shops assume just because you're a guy that you know what you're talking about. Yeah, there's a lot of guys that know what they're talking about, but it's really messed up for a shop to assume, and of course assume means to make an ass out of you and me. Well, I don't believe in assuming, so we're going to go on here and I'm going to tell you the best techniques on how to get the fair deal no matter who you are when you go to a mechanic shop. Now, the first step everybody wants to do, say they have a problem with their car, the car pulls to the left or the engine's making a noise or something like that. Well, every shop that I know of does a free estimate, and you make sure to tell them that you want a free estimate with no obligation to fix it there. You do that first, and they will give you a free estimate. You will see the cost of parts and labor. And if they don't put it on the paper, you ask them to. You be direct. You tell them, I want to see the parts, how much they each cost, the labor, how many labor hours it's required to do the job, because there is a standard procedure that's out there for the majority of the states. There's a standard amount of hours that's average to get a job done on a car. There's a huge book full of man hours required to do a certain job. Okay, so there is a standard out there, and you ask to see that standard. If they don't want to show it to you, turn around and walk away. Another question you want to ask right off the get-go is how much your shop costs per hour of labor. So every hour of labor they spend working on your car, how much are they going to charge you for that? So you can go into a shop armed with information. Now, I've always believed in being armed with information whenever you go to get something done, so you don't get taken advantage of. It doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman, or a kangaroo. You go armed with information to a mechanic shop, they're either going to answer the question, or if they don't give you the answer you want, you turn around and walk off and go to another shop. Now, sometimes you're in a small town, you don't have a lot of shops to go to. So you're straight up, you be firm with the people you're talking to, and you say, hey, this is the problem with my car, give me a free estimate, tell me the price of the parts, how many hours of labor is it going to take to do all these things to my car while installing all these parts, the amount of time it takes to install these parts, and the amount of money you charge per hour of labor. So you're armed with all these facts. You get all these facts from the shop, and you get all that, and you ask them to write it on the estimate. Now, it's a free estimate, and you make sure that there's no obligation on this estimate to where you can go and ask more than one shop the same questions. So basically, you get your free estimate from one shop. If you like the price and you think it's fair, you can go that route. If you think the price is expensive, which in many cases I've heard a lot of complaints from a lot of my friends, especially lady friends, that tell me that they're getting outrageous prices for things that they say need to be done to their car when they just took it in to ask them, hey, why does my car pull to the left? One of my friends said, hey, why does my car pull to the left? They went to a shop, and the shop said, oh, your tires are dry rotted, you've got a bad tie rod, you've got bad shocks. $1,500 plus tax, that's what we're going to estimate it for you. And they didn't break everything down quite clearly. So my recommendation to this person is turn around, take the estimate, walk away, and do your research. What I mean by doing research is every part that's listed on the estimate, price it at a parts shop. So that way you have that information going into all the shops. You have the cost of the parts. Then you figure out what each shop costs for an hour of labor. And then you find out how many hours of labor each shop states that the job will take. You compile all that information together and make an informed decision. So it doesn't matter who you are, man, a woman, anybody. If you have this information, a shop cannot dispute it. They can try, but if you have 3 or 4 other estimates from other shops, and you've made it clear that you want to know all the parts, the cost of the parts, the cost of the labor per hour, and how many hours of labor to complete the job. And you do that with 4 shops and you compare data. Whichever is the best price, that's what I recommend going with. And also, when you're talking to the shops, if they treat you like a person when they're talking to you, and they take the time to explain everything that they're doing in this estimate, that would also be a good route to take. That would also be a good shop that I would go to. The ones that take the time to explain the parts that are solving a problem. Like, for example, with the car pulling to the left. Okay, you have a car pulling to the left. You have a left tie rod where the rubber bushings have been eaten away, and it changes the profile of the vehicle to where it pulls to the left. And they take the time to explain that to you, and they offer you a fair price for parts, because you take their estimate, you go to the car shop and compare their parts price with parts like, say, for example, O'Reilly, AutoZone, Napa Auto Parts. Just go to all your local parts stores and get parts listings from what the estimate says, and you compare the price of the estimate with the price of the parts stores. Now, if the parts stores, the local parts stores, are cheaper than what the shop is charging for the parts, then ask the shop if you can buy the parts at the parts shop, bring them to the shop for installation. And if they agree with that, hey, there's one way to save money right there. Because today, it's hard to make money nowadays. We don't all make a lot of money. And $1,500–$1,600 to fix your car for just a few items, that's a lot of money. Especially if you're working at $8 or $9 an hour, that's a lot of money. So if you care about getting the best deal for the money, that's what you do. Another thing is, if you have a car 1996 or newer, it has a system called OBD2, Onboard Diagnostics 2. Now, this onboard system, you plug in a code reader such as this. This is my code reader right here. Probably hard to see what's on my screen, but this code reader, or one like it, can be purchased at most of the auto parts stores like Craig & O'Reilly, AutoZone, or Napa Auto Parts, just to name a few. And to get a good code reader, you want one that explains live data. Now, for example, you want an OBD2 reader that can read malfunction codes, it can clear the malfunction codes, and you can also view the data. For example, if you have an engine-related problem, this code reader can find the code, explain the code, like, for example, cam position sensor, problems with your fuel injection, or a misfire, or something of that nature. You have a check engine light. You plug in this code reader that you buy. They're usually about $100, $125, but this $125 will save you a lot of money in the long run. So buy one of these and keep that in your car, 1996 and newer, because this will save you a lot of money in the future. Because every time you have a check engine light, if you're to go to a dealership or a shop, they will charge you pretty close to an hour of labor just to check your code. And if you need it reset to verify, they will charge you for that. Some car shops will let you look at the code for free, but they won't reset your check engine light because some states have that as a law, because that's how car dealerships and maintenance shops make their money. Code reading, check engine lights, that's a big money maker in car dealerships and shops. So having your own code reader that has the capability of resetting codes is a very big plus, because 1 hour of labor could be as much as this code reader costs. Some shops cost $100 an hour for labor. So if they clear your check engine light because it may or may not be a fluke, that's going to charge you $80 to $100, and that's just one time. So if you buy your own code reader, you can use it as many times as you want. Say you're driving and all of a sudden your engine starts to stumble. You get a check engine light, you plug in your code reader, it tells you the code, it explains what the code means. For example, a cam position sensor. You're getting a cam position sensor code, and that can affect your engine performance because the cam position sensor controls your fuel injectors. It opens your fuel injector when the cam shaft lobe gets to a certain position. It allows the fuel to come out of the injector. It opens the injector at a certain prescribed time of the camshaft. So that's a cam position sensor. But for example, that cam position sensor, you go to a mechanic shop, they're going to tell you, okay, you got this check engine light, it's a cam position sensor, and we can reset your light and see if it comes back on, because sometimes all it takes is a millisecond, just a small fraction of time for an engine to misperform, and it'll pull a check engine light. Sometimes just resetting the code just to verify it and see if it comes right back on determines if this is a legitimate code or just a fluke. It just happened once, or it's going to happen again. But once you verify the check engine light comes on again with the same code, then you know it's a problem. Well, having this code reader will allow you to have that knowledge and know what's going wrong on your car. And this will save you a lot of money in the long term. You know what your code is. You have the capability to reset it to see if it comes back. And if you decide to go to a mechanic shop, you already know what it is. So that narrows down a lot of troubleshooting time, which could be costly because a lot of mechanic shops operate at $100 an hour. And troubleshooting and finding out what's wrong with the car could take quite a few $100s of labor time. But if you already know what the problem is and you go to the shop and say, hey, I have a problem with the cam position sensor. I'm getting this code. So this is what I need. It's either the cam position sensor, the connector, or the associated wiring. Check engine light comes on. I reset it, and it came back on. So you know it's a problem. And you go to the mechanic shop and get a free estimate. And if you don't like that price, you go to 2 or 3 more shops. And what you're looking at to see if each shop says around the same time required to change this part, and which one is more fair on their price per hour of labor and the price of the parts. Now, if the shop charges too much for the parts, you can always go to the parts houses like O'Reilly, AutoZone, Napa, and price the parts there and compare. Because many of these parts have a lifetime warranty. So if they go bad, you change it out for another one, it's free. Lifetime warranty. So compare that with the price of the parts from the shop and see if the shop's part has a lifetime warranty. It all depends. Depends where the shops buy their parts from and whether they have a warranty or not. So many things to consider, but to keep things simple, having a code reader can save you a lot of money at a mechanic shop, especially with the check engine light. Because a check engine light can come on, it's just a general light saying, hey, something's wrong. When you have a code reader, it can tell you really close to exactly what's going on. Because sometimes multiple parts or one part can get multiple codes. That's when things get tricky. But at least with the code reader, you can get in the ballpark. You can get whether it's a cam position sensor or crank position sensor, multiple cylinder misfire. There's so many codes out there. Vacuum leaks, emissions leaks, so many codes out there. But at least with a code reader, you can know what the code is, and you can go to the shop educated. So going to the shop educated with this information, you're going to get a much better price. You're going to get treated fairly because you know what you're talking about. And you can also go on YouTube and Google. I mean, if you have a question on what a part is, you look at your code reader, it says this part is bad. So you go on Google and look up the part and you'll know what the part is. So you're going to get educated on what the part is. You're going to learn something. And you go to that shop and ask for an estimate. You're going to go there educated and you're going to get a fair deal. And that's how you do it.